there anything that benefited you from having actually a tight deadline that you can look back and say that you got from this?
Yes. Having a tight deadline meant, and like a very short amount of pages, meant that we had to focus on what we really wanted to get across in the short amount of time we had to tell a story. And we couldn't allow ourselves to dwell on like little details that would usually hold you back from creating a story, and it was kind of liberating actually. Like, oh, I don't actually have to think about this character's backstory or like what his motives are. He's just going to be in the middle of a fight with a giant bug virus and be punching him in the face, and that's all the explanation you really need. And it made it a lot easier to do things.
Yeah, I think it was good for me, the deadline. Like he said, it was good to have a short amount of pages because I have to have the expanding story so long, it takes you a century to read it. That's what happened to me in school in some projects. So it allowed me to get rid of some things and give me more of a story you can read. I mean, this is a good story and it doesn't last forever.
Yeah, and as I said before, I've never had a deadline this short before. I mean, I've had weeks, even months to finish individual Squids and Rainbows comic strips, but I've never had days to finish a 5-page, 6 pennies on each page comic strip. So this was certainly a challenge, but it really taught me just not focus on, well, not focus directly on quality, but on getting the work done.
And with me, the same thing really. My group had to really focus on, working together and getting a good story in the short amount of time we had. And go with the ideas that first came into our head. Not necessarily if it's the best idea, but it made sense and it made a story and it was good.
I think that the deadlines helped a lot because in the future, if you get a career in anything, you're going to have to meet your deadlines. And so this is definitely something that helps out later on. And it also helped me and our group come up with an idea quick and just go with it instead of having to think too much about it. So I think that, and it also came out to be an idea that we enjoy doing. So
The only confession I have to make at this point is that we originally called it the 2-week comic project. But just letting you know now that we can't do anything about it.
Now that we're done.
Now that we're done. That's a lot. Alonzo and I were like, that's too long.
And they're too tired still to read books.
it wasn't even a week.
Let's just pile Comic-Con and the 1-week comic project all together and get it over with. No, going back to like the theme of the comic, Superman, right? Like we really looked at the 75th anniversary of Superman. We actually looked really deeply at the early stages of how Superman was developed by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, and these like 17-year-old kids that came up with this idea for a hero that exemplified all of the things that they wanted out of their own life. And then we said, forget everything about that and just use that story as an inspiration. So what was that like? How did your stories end up reflecting that, do you feel like? Like how did they reflect what Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster created for their original Superman creation? In your stories?
Well, our hero is obviously not a big old buff guy, so, and a lot of things to do with Superman is Superman pretty much is from another planet, so he's an alien, and he saves people in pretty much any situation. And our superhero has a situation where there's a guy at a hot dog stand who's robbing it, and he pretty much just shows that from being a kid, he gets pushed out of line into being this kid who defeats the robber. So that was kind of our premise of kind of giving it to the 75th anniversary of Superman.
For our hero, like, the biggest thing we focused on that related to the 75th anniversary was that Superman, when Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster created him, was kind of made to solve the problems of the time, and so we converted our hero to solve the problems of this day and age. And it was a hero for our time rather than a hero for Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster's time.
out of the three stories, and not that I'm picking favorites, but the On story I thought was really brilliant because it brought this kind of, I was like, if Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster were around today, 17-year-old today, they'd be playing with iPods and you know, be really into going to Comic-Con and checking out all the booths, and like, they would have created a hero that reflected like this kind of infrastructure that we built our world on. Because that's what they created for their hero, is this kind of American dream, the Midwestern American dream. In the On story, that hero actually exists in the internet, is just a regular person outside of the computer. He goes into the computer and can like teleport all around the world, and I was just like, whoa, like for me, but not that I didn't. Efren, how did you feel like your and Nick's story really showed that connection to Superman?
That's a good question.
Is there an answer?
Well, as I said before, last school year in English class, we did talk a lot about these revolutions that are happening in these corrupt countries where innocent families were subject to these horrid injustices. Well, I guess a good way to put it would be, I want to help them, but right now there's nothing I can do, so the best thing I can do is make people aware of it and make this character that can help them out. I guess that would be the best answer.
Alonzo, I had a question for you. We have about 5 minutes left, so I'm gonna ask like one more question. But you're like the resident comics historian, so like you probably know more about comics history than. And I didn't think there was another person who knew more about comics history than I did, but Alonzo kind of dumbfounds me on a daily basis. So, Alonzo, how do you see the stories that were created for this issue? Like, what do you see in them? Like, what do
You mean like as they kind of relate to the Superman?
Yeah, it's the comics history. You know?
I guess, for anyone that's not familiar with kind of Superman's early history, he starts out not flying, he, can run really fast and jump buildings and the like. And he starts out battling, crooked politicians and wife beaters, very kind of New Deal stuff, he was creating late 30s. And that was kind of the angle that these kids took. That's where they started, there's no, giant otherworldly supervillains here. And on that level, I feel like they really nailed a lot of the kind of underdog, taking care of the underdog and that kind of protection and responsibility that Siegel and Shuster really hit with Superman. Siegel and Shuster were no older than most of the guys up here when they started batting around the idea of Superman. They had gotten into early science fiction and were really into a lot of the early pulp heroes and wanted to do something a little bit more kind of social and super heroic, something that never existed. And so on a kind of primal emotional level, I feel like everyone up here really got that kind of that in a way that someone like Patrick or me, someone that's read a lot of comics, someone that, people that are older, it doesn't resonate as kind of deeply and quickly as it does for them.
So I just want to reiterate, there was a couple of things that I think I'm just impressed because I don't know if I could have done it at any of their respective ages as a student for the first time. And the first one of those things was accepting the challenge of coming into this class. The second thing that they did that was kind of amazing that they confronted was sitting in front of a Marvel comic book artist and getting their work critiqued. That takes an incredible amount of bravery that I have not ever really had for myself. So that's amazing. The third thing that they did was get it done. And the fourth thing they did was sit up here and present. Like, they're sitting up here and presenting their work as finished work when a week ago they didn't have anything done. That just blows my mind as far as like what that means for them as artists.
I also want to add, they're doing an incredible job. Part of the 1 week challenge is selling the book. They've got it, but they haven't stopped there. They're selling it. And, these guys are standing behind their work and really pushing it at our booth I3, right under the Cafe Express sign, end of row 1000.
I3, yeah, at the end of row 1000.
Cafe Express sign, you can't miss it. But you know, they're doing an amazing job. You know, really standing behind this work, which is, it's hard to do when, you know, there's things you would change. You know, it was done really quickly. There's things, you know, I'd like to change in my cover inks. But you know, they're proud of it, as they should be. And you know, please support them. Come flip through it, offer words of encouragement, and buy one.
Yeah. So quick round of applause for these students. Like we said, it's in I3. Actually, no, we have some copies with us right now, and all of the students are able, for the first time since the con is open, to actually sign them. So if you're really interested in getting one, please feel free to come up and buy one. We're about to vacate the premises, so you can follow us out of the hall and do that. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.